Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Now, here we go. Damar is part of the business now, y'all. He part of the business. So they started to groom him in the ways of the org. You understand what I'm saying? Like when you become a part of a family, you know what I'm saying, a gang family, you got to learn the mannerisms, the language, how to act, how to interact with other gangs and all of this and that, right? So he starts to get all of this information that he really wasn't even aware of, right? You know, trying to understand and remember all that, it can become overwhelming to a lot of people. But see, Damar was motivated by what was on the other end of this. The main reason behind him doing this, vengeance. Yeah, he wanted the money, he wanted the bag, all of the other stuff that was coming along with that, right? But vengeance is what's driving him. Vengeance is what's keeping him moving at night. You know what I'm saying? When he's told he has to learn this and memorize that. When he's told that he'll get in trouble if he don't do this. This vengeance that he has about his brother's death is what's pushing him to not really pay attention to that, but to strive and push forward. And in the meantime, in between time, what this is doing is it's making him excel. He's excelling. The brothers are amazed at how quickly he's memorizing, how quickly he's learning all of this thing. Some of the brothers even think that, you know, he had to have known some of this stuff before, but it wasn't true. He had no knowledge. Slim hadn't told him anything, hadn't taught him anything about the game, but this vengeance that he had for the organization that he belonged to now was pushing him. And he became smarter than most of them. Now, keep in mind, he doesn't have a lot of time left before he goes up for parole. And here's the thing, it's no guarantee that he's gonna make parole, but he's been staying out of trouble. But, see, at every prison, you got security threat group coordinators, right? Those are gang coordinators, right? And gangs are considered a threat to security. So the gang coordinator, she found out that, you know, Damar had become part of this gang, so she bumped down on him. And she talked to him, and he denied it. He denied it. He hadn't gotten any tats or anything like that, so it was really nothing that would identify him other than, you know, him admitting it or somebody telling him. And whether a lot of people want to believe it or not, you know, you got a lot of people within organizations, they talk. They share information with the administration all the time for favor, right? And when I say favor, it's not really anything, you know, treating them like they're somebody, treating them different than they treat everybody else. Might give them a piece of chicken here and there, something like that, right? You know what I'm saying? Let them get away with a write-up or something like that. But that's what they do it for. So she's gotten this information that says that Damar is one of the gang members now. When they're talking, he denies it. And she goes on, but she tells him real stuff. She said, look, you're about to go up for parole, and there's a chance you're going home. You don't want to ruin your life by living this lifestyle. Everything that she's saying to him is true. Everything that she's saying is true. But he really don't want to listen to that because she don't understand. There's no way she can understand. She don't really know what's going on with him. She don't know what happened to his brother, Tyson. She don't know why he's doing this. So the whole time he's listening to her, he's agreeing with her. He's telling her, yes, ma'am, I understand. What you've been told is a lie. He's playing the role all the way to the hip. You understand what I'm saying? But he ain't letting go. She's seen it before. She ain't being fooled by it. She could read his face and tell that he was lying, and she could tell that he was going to do something crazy. But she didn't know why. She saw a look in his eye that she had never seen out of the other ones. It was different. This was a commitment to something else. And she told him, she said, whatever you got planned, you have a chance to walk away from it. And you need to walk away from it. Whatever it is that you have planned, walk away from it. And he told her, he said, I can't. Not now. I'm all the way in. I'm fully committed to this. And nothing is going to make me walk away from it. She looked at him. She said, I thought you said you wasn't a part of it. He said, I'm not. But you do have something going on with them. You know, she's been trained too. She know how to hit back. He said, are we done? She said, do you want to leave? He looked at her. He's like, yes, ma'am, I want to leave. Then she said, get up and leave. Nobody's holding you here. But you remember what I said. And I'm going to be watching you. He looked at her. He said, okay, do your job. But I'm good. thank you, and walked out. And when he walked out, she leaned back in her chair. She had seen 1,000 people like him before. Thinks he knows everything, think he's got the world figured out. She said she'd see him again, either on TV being arrested or on TV with a blanket over his head, dead, on the scene, because of the lifestyle choices that he had chosen. And while he was walking away, he had to go down this dark, long hallway, dimly lit rather. And he's going down this hallway and he's thinking about everything that she said. And he realized, he knew everything that she said was true. He knew that this was a bad choice. But he knew he couldn't stop. He knew he couldn't change his mind at this point. And plus, he'll get some money on top of all of it. So he kept pushing. When he got back to the cell, he told Slim what had happened. So he had been told, anytime that you have any contact with the police, you got to report it. You know what I'm saying? To at least one other brother, so that if something comes up, they can vouch for you. You don't keep any secrets about talking to the police, because if it comes out, then you're going to be labeled a rat until they find out otherwise. And the one thing you don't want to be labeled when you're part of an organization is a rat. So he keeps it moving. And it's him and Slim, they discussing some things. So Slim tells him, said, look, she going to be watching you from here on out. He said, but you got to lay low. You got to lay low, because the goal is for you to make parole. You got to make parole this first time so that you can go home and we can get this taken care of. So his parole date comes up 3 months later. Goes up for parole. When he goes into the room, he sits down. He got 3 parole officers sitting there, and they're questioning back and forth. One person says this, one person says that, and then they pull out a file. And he sees on the top of the file, STG. They open up the file, and it says suspect. Suspected gang member. So they question him about it, and they ask him, is he involved in any gang-related activities? Is he involved in anybody, associated with anybody that's a part of a gang? And he told them that his cell it was. And because he's in the cell with head of a gang, a lot of people think that he's affiliated, but he's not affiliated. He looked them in their eyes and he lied. And again, they had seen this before. It's nothing uncommon to them. And they looked at him and they said, well, there's really no proof that says you're a gang member, but they're going to be watching you. And when you go home, they're going to be watching you. So if you do anything associated with anybody that's involved in gang-related activities, you'll be brought back to prison. So he looked at the 3 board members. He said, so you're granting me parole? And they all looked at him and they had smiles on their faces because it is good news. And they said, yes, one after the other. We're going to grant you parole. You'll be going home in a few weeks. Good luck. He looked at him and he stood up and he went, stepped forward, and he asked them could he shake their hands, and he shook all 3 of their hands and told them that he was going to do good and he wouldn't be back in prison and all this and that. They've heard all of this before. And they said, I hope for your sake that's true. And then they called in the next person. He left. When he got back to the cell, he couldn't wait to tell Slim that he had made parole. He was happy, overjoyed. Everybody was happy for him. The whole family was happy for him because they knew that he was going to be able to walk out of this place, be free. But see, for him, his freedom meant something else. His freedom meant that he had the opportunity to take care of what it was he wanted to take care of. And nobody really knew who he was. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, they call him down to the parole office and they tell him that they need some paperwork filled out and he'll be going home next week. He has a date. He fills out the paperwork, gets everything certified and whatnot. They tell him that he's going home in 7 days exactly at 9 a.m. that morning. He goes back to the cell, tells Slim what's going on. And so Slim, they started getting real serious. And Slim asked him, he said, are you sure you still want to do this? Have you changed your mind? Damon tells him, no, I ain't changed my mind. Have you changed your mind? Because I'm all in. And Damon said, look, if you change your mind, you need to let me know. And I won't do this. So Slim tells me, he said, look, man, what we got to do is serious. We can't be turning our backs. on this. If we're going to do it, we got to do it. And he said, you're not going to be able to do it as soon as you get out. We got to mingle in. You got to get them to trust you. And he said, I know, man. I understand what it is that you're asking me to do. He said, and it's going to be a lot of situations, man, that you get put in front of. He said, but all I ask you is this, man. If you decide to change your mind and walk away, don't turn on me, man. Because if you tell them what's really going on, they going to kill me. He said, look, you ain't got to worry about that. He said, one thing for sure, two things for certain. I may not be a real gang member like you because I don't want this. He said, but you my brother. He said, I hope that you remember that. He said, there are going to be some things, man, that we find out about each other that we might not like. But family always forgives and family sticks together. So Damon extended his hand out to him. He said, are we family or not? Slim stood up, shook his hand. He said, we family, man. Way bigger than what this gang stuff is. They shook each other's hand and hugged and embraced real quick, and then they sat down and they continued to chop it up about what it was that they were going to have to do, all the different things that they were going to have to get straight. Slim kept drilling them over and over and over for the next 7 days on who he was going to meet, who they were, what they did, how they got down, and how he was going to be able to get in and become a part of the move so that he could start to see how things go. He gave him everything that he needed to know to be able to infiltrate the outside organization so that he would know exactly when the right time. He gave him a phone number to his mom's house so that Slim could call anytime. And they had promised to make sure that they could talk to each other at least once a week, minimum, about the business. Anything else was that's it. They had a list of code words that they could use when they were talking so that they could talk on the phone, right? And everything was going to be straight. He didn't want to take a chance on having any kind of conversations with anybody else. So when he got home, the day of, when he was getting ready to go home, it was a bittersweet day for Slim because he knew that he would never find anybody else that would be real as Damon had been with him. Plus, the agreement that him and Damon had was way deeper than anything that he had ever imagined in his life. The friendship that he had developed, the brotherhood that he had developed with Damon was deeper than any relationship he had nurtured within the gang. He really thought of him as a little brother, and he would do anything for him. He was going to be the big brother to him now. He was going to help him become a man that he always wanted to be. And then when the time came, he was going to walk away himself. He had 5 years left to do, and he wanted to walk out of the penitentiary a rich man so he could leave this lifestyle behind. So when Damon left, it was hard for him because he didn't really want to leave Slim behind. That's how it is when you get out of the penitentiary. Man, I can't imagine I can't even explain to y'all how difficult it's been in a lot of situations, when people that I have come to know and start to care about, when they walk out, you know what I'm saying? It got to the point for me where I wouldn't even go to, at the other prisons that I've been at, you can walk down to the intake area where they'll actually be going out the door and you can wish them well from that point on, right? I stopped doing that. I say my goodbyes in the unit because I don't even want to be down there because it gets to be emotional. And when they walk through that door, it's like you won't see them again unless you get out or they come back. You feel me? And my situation was so different that, a lot of the people that have gotten out, I haven't seen or heard from some of these people, not all of them, but most of them I stay in touch with. But some of the people that I really know I haven't heard from in 10, 20 years. Now, 10 or 20 years, man. And that's hard. So, it's hard for when you have to deal with that. And when Damon walked out, it was hard for him, but it was harder for Slim. It was harder for Slim because Slim, he had developed, this big brother thing for Damon. And he wanted to protect him. He knew what he was sending him into was risky. And it could cost him his life. It could cost both of them if he found out. If they ever found out that both of them were involved in this. But he trusted that Damon, if something went south, that he would hold his tongue. At least he thought so anyway. So here's the thing. Damon gets out, and when you get out on parole, you got to go report to your parole officer. He does that ASAP. They tell him the conditions of parole, who he can hang around with, who he couldn't hang around with, how much money he has to pay in fines and fees and all that every month, all that old kind of stuff, right? But when you're a part of a gang, you got to check in with them too. ASAP. ASAP. They don't want to hear nothing. When you get out, check in with them so they know you there, so they can tell you what it is that you will be doing, if anything. So when he got out and finished talking to his PO, he went straight to the game. Talking to his brothers, and I say that in quotations, right? Talking to his brothers, and they schooled him and screened him and told him everything that he needed to know, and they asked him, what you want to do, bro? What you want to do? See, you got a choice in this, y'all. You want to go to work? Go to work, right? Legitimate job. Do you, but you got to pay your dues. They want their monthly dues, you know what I mean? Or he can get it in the mud. Now, here's the thing. Now, about him being on parole, he's going to have a job anyway. But he can always get it in the mud, too, at the same time. Matter of fact, having a job makes it even better because you got a cover. So he told him, because he had been discussing this with Slim the whole time, I'm going to get it in the mud. He said, yeah, I'm going to have me a job, but that's just going to be what I do for my PO. But I want to know how the business work. I want to get down and dirty with it. And he told him, he said, man, because I'm going to make sure my brother Slim, you know what I'm saying, is straight in there. I'm going to make sure he's straight. And they were like, oh, yeah, he going to be straight, bro, good anyway. He knew that wasn't true. He started to hear immediately how they try to pop corn and make it seem like that they take care of the brothers in the penitentiary. It's not true. Very few brothers in the penitentiary are taken care of by the brothers on the streets when the brothers on the streets is getting money. You feel what I'm saying? Now, if they sending that bag up in there, yeah, they get here and there, little crumbs here and there, whatever the case may be. Some of them, in fact, make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, that's not the whole fam, though. Everybody don't benefit like it. It only looks like that. They make it seem like it. They make it sound like it. Huh. That's the trick. So here's the thing, right? Let me tell you. So now, Damon, he doing this thing. He at the house with his mom. His mom is clean now. You know, by him going to the penitentiary, it changed a lot. It changed a lot. She felt as though she was on her own and she had to finally get it right, because if she don't get it right, she knew she was going to die. She knew she was going to die. She had a couple of close calls while Damon was gone. And he couldn't believe it, because he had never seen his mother, to the best that he can remember, when she wasn't high. And now he was. He was seeing her in a way that he had never seen before. And she was a mother. She was a mother. She was working, coming home, cooking, cleaning, had a boyfriend that was clean. It was foreign to him. It was weird. It was something that he always had wanted. He didn't know how to respond to it. And when she told him that she needed him to be home so he could eat with her and all this and that, he would say yes. And he made it his business to get home so he could eat with his moms and her husband. And he enjoyed that side of things. But he knew he had things to do. He knew he had to get back out there in the streets. So that's what he did. And his mom would say, where are you going? What do you got going on? Now you got to keep in mind, even though his mom was, junked out, right? She knew her baby. She said, you got something going on. She said, that prison didn't mess you up, did it? See, a lot of people, they hear the stories about prison and all this and that, and they know what can happen to you in prison, how to change the way you think and how you see the world. And his mom, she knew. Even though all of those years she was clouded high, when she's sober, she knew her baby. And she could see it all over his face that he was doing something that he really, really, really shouldn't be doing. And she called him on it. And she sat him down and she told him, she said, look, I made a lot of bad decisions in my life. But no matter how bad the decisions were that I made, the day will come when you have to make a choice. You got to pick a side. And she said, when I was in my sober mind, I I was able to realize that everything that I was doing, none of that made sense. And when none of the stuff that I was doing made sense, the rest of the world started to make sense. And she said, I can't make you see that. You're going to have to realize that. You're going to have to realize that some things just don't make sense. And when you come to that realization, you're going to realize how the other stuff does. And she said, I love you. And I'm going to be here no matter what, no matter how long it's going to take you. I'm always going to be here. You remember that. So he looked at her and he told her that he loved her. And you're going to have to tune in to the next episode for this story to continue. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.